New York Times come to Biden's rescue with pathetic excuse for Joe's classified docs. Of course, the New York Times coming in to save, coming in to rescue. They got their cape. They're caping for Joe Biden. And I'm going to bust this excuse wide open. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already. Subscribe or hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my merch store where I have I Will Not Comply t-shirts. So check out my t-shirts as well. All right, let's talk about this news. Joe Biden made a huge blunder during his PBS interview this week. Biden admitted that one of the classified documents found in his home or office was from 1974. Golly, way before I was even born. Uh, there had already been reports that there were documents found at his home from his days in the Senate. So he confirmed that, which means that he's been keeping classified documents for almost 50 years. So who knows where they've been, who saw them, and what was compromised. Senators who have spoken on this matter, who know that you have to examine documents in a skiff, and I talked about this before, and return them, can't understand how he could have documents from his time in the Senate. He also had classified documents from his time as vice president. It's also why there needs to be a search of Biden's biggest cache of document. Needs to be a search of Biden's biggest cache of documents at the University of Delaware, where his Senate papers are kept. But what did Joe Biden give as an excuse for all of this? He blamed his staff. It's just ridiculous that he would do something like this because he's never been able to take responsibility for anything. He claimed that the documents were there because the people who cleaned up his offices when he left didn't thoroughly examine every piece of paper. Quote, one of the things that happened is what was not done well is as they packed up my offices to move, they didn't do the kind of job that should have been done to go thoroughly through every single piece of literature that's there. Mr. Biden said, but I'll just let the investigation, decide what's going on, and we'll see what happens. Now, of course, this doesn't make a lot of sense. First, he shouldn't have the documents to begin with among his papers. Then, secondly, it isn't just the aides packing up his vice presidential office and sending them to the Penn Biden Center and other transition offices in the meantime. If you have documents from his time in the Senate as well as documents in his home, not to mention the FBI also seized handwritten notes Biden had. I'm guessing the reason they seized them was that they thought they may have been notes about the documents. If they are, that would be an indication that he knew he had them and was maybe trying to copy the information from the documents. That would blow his claim that he was surprised by the discovery of his document out of the. It'll take that out of the water. But New York Times is out with a story picking up on the talking points that Biden was laying down. It was just those careless aides and their hasty packing. So the New York Times, they tweeted out an article that said the count of how classified documents ended up in President Biden's personal office in Washington is now at the heart of a special counsel's investigation into whether the documents were mishandled by two aides. So they're trying to blame two aides instead of blaming the president because he's the one that took them from secure locations and brought them to his offices. He's the one that did it. So it's not their fault for packing this stuff. It's his fault for actually taking the stuff in the first place. They don't mention that. New York Times is despicable. I don't understand why people read this organization stuff because a lot of this stuff is crap. So were those two aides packing those classified documents from the Senate and sneaking them out of the skiff? Yeah, no. Only one person could have done that, and it isn't the AIDS. It wasn't the AIDS keeping them in Joe's garage next to his Corvette, where Joe told us they were most certainly secure. It isn't the AIDS who wrote whatever is in Joe's handwritten notes that the FBI found. The only constant in all of this over almost 50 years is, of course, Joe Biden. The New York Times story avoid those points because they would blow up the ridiculous excuse. Indeed, the quote hasty packing might work better for Mike Pence or Donald Trump since they don't have documents going back 50 years like Joe Biden does. But the fact that they have to dig this deep for Joe Biden for an excuse that doesn't work at all is pretty pathetic. But let me know what you think about this stupid New York Times article that's basically caping for Joe Biden. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out demarcrepublics.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace. Oh, say, oh, say, oh, say, oh, say, oh, say, oh, say.